everyone. Welcome while you're coming on. Hello, in this video today, I'm going to guide you through the 5 secrets to build vocal stamina, to last at shows and on tour. And I'm Carrie Cole, holistic voice expert who's worked with Grammy winners and thousands of independent artists through my 3.5-decade career teaching voice in New York City. So welcome today as you're coming on the call. Let me know where you're tuning in from. It's nice to see how global we are. Today I'm talking about an important aspect of singing, which is really the stamina that you need to be able to perform full shows without wearing out, to go on tour, right? So the real key to not losing your voice on tour and to developing stamina has to do with the muscle patterning and vocal technique that you use. Tennessee is in the house. I'm looking over on Instagram here. We're streaming on several platforms. So the good news is that regardless of your current vocal journey, what you've done so far, if you're a natural singer and have never trained, if you have trained in the past, if your voice is deteriorating a bit, if you're starting to notice it's wearing out, don't buy the BS. You don't have to lose your voice as you get older. It has to do with the condition of your voice and the strength of your voice and the strength of your technique. So you can recover your voice from issues no matter where you are. You can build a stronger and healthier voice than you now have. Vocal strength and stamina, along with tone and vocal health, are the key elements to a voice that truly delivers night after night without burning out. Here are the quick 5 key points I'm going to focus on today. Vocal health practices that improve stamina, breath control to last longer, cool downs, using cool downs post-show, and how that makes such a huge difference in decreasing the inflammation on the vocal folds. And those exercises can only be found here. They are only a part of this particular method. And then pre-show conditioning we'll talk about, and then voice building techniques to strengthen your voice long term so that you're improving the longevity of your voice. The real way to build a strong and healthy voice is to learn the Cole Vocal Method. And hi, Kate. I see your hearts. Good to see you here. The real key to doing it is to practice a technique that has vocal health baked into it, that is a biomechanical method that is not manipulating sound on the surface of the voice, but rather improving your own voice and the way that you make sound like an athlete would strengthen their own body. Right? So let's dive in, and then I'll ask questions at the end. So, and a quick announcement, my vocal mastery program is starting today. We've extended enrollment through November 6th. We have an incredible group of people. It is a 1-year program. I don't know when I'm going to do this again, to be honest, and that's not just a sales tactic. We looked at the calendar. Originally, we were like, oh, yeah, we'll do it in the fall of 2027. But when I look at the calendar, I have 2 books that I'm working on that I need to finish. Next year, I'm teaching the advanced level 3. I'm not teaching this level 1 and 2 next year. And it's an opportunity to really experience a full year of very sophisticated, specifically designed exercises that can only be found here that actually strengthen your voice. And you won't believe the difference in terms of the tone and the range and the breath control and the control of your voice. And that's just not just my opinion. It's watch the testimonials. So now is your chance to get in. We've extended enrollment through 11/6. You can find it everywhere. You know what to do. I'm also doing some Zoom calls for those of you that are on our insider list. So make sure you're on our list at carriecole.com and you'll get invited to those, and where I'm going to walk you through the program, the behind the scenes. So let's dive in. Vocal health practices that improve stamina. So keeping your voice healthy with not only technique, but with vocal hygiene. will help to reduce tension and the inflammation that comes with singing, to manage your overall health. The voice is an instrument inside the body. So how we care for our body and the state of the body determines the state of our voice. So we really want to get that in our minds, that the voice is an instrument inside the body. So, when you're tired, your voice is generally not performing quite as well. When your health or energy is down, you don't have as much energy to sing. And then there's all of the tensions in the physical body, or from malalignment, misalignment, or those kinds of things that can really affect the voice. So just some quick tips. One of the things, if you haven't tried this before, steaming before a show is the quickest way to hydrate the cords and moisturize the throat area, reducing mucus, because mucus will slip off if you follow my instructions I'm going to give you in just a minute, because the cool steam, it doesn't work as much with. So like the vocal mist and that kind of thing, I'm not a big fan of that. I like warm steam because the mucus will slip off, just like when you wash a plate with hot water, all the food slips off. So with that warm steam, warm to hot steam, it's really helping to reduce mucus. So people are always asking me what products to use, but you can really do it with steam. And then you're hydrating the vocal folds directly. So that moisture is going right to the vocal folds. Whereas when you drink water, it has to go all the way through the body to go back to the throat to hydrate. So it's a really quick tip and trick to use before performances. And what I like to do is just, heat up some water. Make sure you're using spring water. You don't need to be inhaling fluoride or chlorine, okay? Or any of the chemicals that come with tap water. But just make sure you have some good water and heat it up in a small pot, and then wait for it to cool down right before boiling. Let it cool for a moment. Put a towel over your head, or cup your hands over your nose and your mouth, and breathe in through the nose and the mouth. And this will moisten the throat, the nose, the nasal passages, the throat passages, and the vocal folds, right? So that's a much better way. And there are many, many singers that swear by this, that steam every single time before they have a show. Try it and see what you notice. The second thing is to add chunks of melon in your water pre-stage. So that would be mostly cantaloupe, but it could be watermelon or honeydew. But in an NYU study with Elton John and Eric Clapton, performed by one of the ENTs I worked with, they discovered that the molecules in melon are fatter. And so it keeps the throat hydrated longer, or moist longer, than drinking water. So always put melon in your water to get that extra moisture in the throat passages. It won't moisten or hydrate the vocal folds other than it hydrates the body and then comes back to the vocal folds. So steaming with that is really ideal. Also warming up before your show, but warm-ups that are designed to open the voice, not just singing, right? So some people just kind of sing their favorite song, and you might be used to that, but you should try warm-ups that are designed to actually open the voice, decrease tension, and increase sound and range and all of those things without warming you out. So a lot of warm-ups on the market, and a lot of coaches who don't really know technique will just have you sing louder, but that is very taxing and wearing on the voice. And that might kind of work, but then over time, your voice is deteriorating or breaking down, or, you're kind of losing some of your high notes, or it's taking longer to warm up. Those are all signs of the voice starting to slowly deteriorate, and you can get all that back, but you need to be using techniques that have movements in them designed to open and free the voice. And my singers get vocal warm-ups. They're very specifically designed. We do throat opening exercises. We add in vocal massages and specific movements that reduce tension and that increase sound, improving performance. And then regular vocal technique practice to strengthen your instrument, because the stronger that you are, the more stamina that you have, and the more that you're using the instrument correctly. And I think that is really the key, because the key to longevity. So I was listening to an Instagram post of Magda Oliveira, who is in her, I think, has passed 100 now. And at the time, I think she was 99. This was circulating last year or a couple of years ago. And she's a very famous opera singer, but not as known in the press. But she's in opera world. In the opera world, she's very well known. She had really impeccable technique, and she actually worked with Maria Callas on her voice. I'm not a huge opera buff. As I've gotten older, I enjoy it a lot more. But what we need to learn from correct operatic technique is the technique itself, not the sound, right? So my method, the co-vocal method, is based in bel canto, and it comes from, bel canto was not a method though. It was just a particular style or technique of singing, but it was never really formulated, right? But it's really just correct singing, proper singing, not from the purpose of making you sound like an opera singer, but actually using the instrument correctly to get the most sound with the least strain and effort. And when you do that, you are building the tone, you're building the overtone series and the legato line, which is what gives singers that beautiful tone, which bel canto means beautiful, beautiful voice, beautiful sound, beautiful singer, and gives that resonant sound, right? So it's really important to be doing the right methodology. Number two is breath control to last longer. So the key to singing well without burning out early not just depends on your muscle patterning, but also depends on your breath control. So contrary to what most techniques teach, it's not the abdomen that is so important to breathe into. True diaphragmatic breathing starts in the ribs. So the secret to unlocking the diaphragm, so that here's the rib cage, and the diaphragm is inside the rib cage, like an odd-shaped hand kind of off to the side. And the lungs are sacs that sit on top of the diaphragm, and the rib cage is here. So if you're only breathing in the belly, there's no diaphragm movement really. And that's why you can still kind of have a locked diaphragm when you're just breathing into the belly. Yes, it's good direction to think of breathing down. That definitely helps. But until you're really moving the ribs, and Dr. Carl Stowe really understood this. He was the breathing doctor. He passed away in the early 2010s here in New York, but he really understood this, and I learned it when I studied Rolfing, actually, which is a body work, very deep tissue body work technique that I studied massage, and I studied vocal massage and health, decades ago, before anyone was using it. And I've integrated those movements into the co-vocal method because they get such a huge result. But the first piece is we really need that diaphragm to drop. And until we're getting the lower portion of the ribs to really move, to make room for that diaphragm to drop, because the intercostal muscles, there's 28 muscles that wrap around the ribs. So you really, to unlock the deeper, wider part of the triangle of the lungs. So think of the lungs as a triangle. So when you're breathing up here, you're only getting that upper part. You're not really getting that deeper reserve of breath that singers need. So we can't ignore the expansion of the rib cage. Matter of fact, we need it for singing. And so it's important to also avoid tucking your stomach inward to support your sound. I know that can be like a popular quick trick with singing, but it's not a solid technique at all. You'll often hear that, like use your abdomen or squeeze your glutes and things like that. Yes, you want to ground into your body, but the problem with those quick fix techniques that aren't really solid technique, they're not real technique, it immediately tightens the throat, causing more constriction. It doesn't actually support the voice, it actually tightens or constricts the voice. And then the other piece of it is it's very easy for on your first note for this to happen. So if you watch my hands, the rib cage, imagine this is the rib cage here. What most people do, even if they're breathing more diaphragmatically, they'll take a breath, and then on the first note, they'll go, ah, 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 and there's this like drop in the chest and the ribs come in. Well, you've lost all of your air. So that's the next sort of step on the onset is to practice, but you need to practice these things in specific techniques because if you're just applying them to your singing voice, then you're thinking way too much about your technique when you're singing, which you don't want to do. You want these movements to be natural, and that's why I've organized them all inside the co-vocal method. That you're doing these exercises as you're moving through the method, just 20 minutes a day, and then your body starts naturally doing them, which is what's ideal. So, and there's a really nice exercise over on the blog. So I'm always on Wednesdays, I'm going through the blog that is posted every Wednesday. So if you want to get on our list to get our blog every week, just join the list at carriecool.com. But this is the beginning of breathing diaphragmatically. And then what you do with the breath when you start to sing is the next level of breath control. But if you try to keep the ribs out and you're doing that, that's not working either. So these are like kind of intermediate level techniques for really being able to control the breath as you're singing. For those ready to jump in with both feet and join my year-long program, this is the last time I'm leading it for a while. Again, I don't know when I'm going to teach it again, to be honest, because I'm working on my books. We just made a whole bunch of changes in the schedule, slated for a podcast next year. There's a lot going on. So this is level 1 and 2 of the co-vocal method. It's 200 exercises on audio and video for yours to keep, and you build your voice and really step into your true potential. And it's guaranteed that you will have a shift in your voice, no question. People feel it even in the first couple of weeks. That's the Vocal Mastery Program that starts today, and we extended enrollment to the 6th of November. Number 3 is cooling down. So cooling down post-show is extremely important. Cooling down is the practice of very specific vocal techniques that we teach inside the co-vocal method, performed following performance to really maintain vocal health by reducing the inflammation on the folds that occurs with normal singing and with performances. So long before anyone was talking about cool downs for singers, I introduced them to the market decades ago. And as a part of my early training as a voice teacher, I was lucky enough to find this incredible technique that I've now turned into a method. And I was taught these exercises, and they're based in vocal science. And so my mentor's mentor was a vocal science geek, and so he was looking at the vocal folds and experimenting with exercises to see what the results were. And after using them for many years, I renamed them cool downs. And so they're used post-show to reduce the inflammation and prepare your voice for the next day of singing, especially when you have back-to-back concerts, right? And you'll see from the testimonials of people who are practicing the method. Joseph gave a really nice testimonial. He was like, yeah, I did a 4-hour. He does these long cover gigs and event performances out in LA. And he said, yeah, I sang a 4-hour show and was not hoarse at all. Right. So that's what happens. You start to build your stamina and you start to build your endurance. And when I was at the very top peak of my performance career, I could sing for 8 hours at the top of my voice. I was in the studio one day, and it was a really intensive session, and didn't lose a voice at all. And that is the power of using the right muscle movements over time that are programmed into the voice. And because again, if you're thinking about it last minute and you're trying to just apply it as a quick trick, you're really doing yourself a disservice because you're too much thinking about technique, which will also make your emotional performance run kind of flat. So that's why you want to practice technique of 20 minutes a day, 20 to 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. And then you get these movements inside the voice. Also, alongside, so number 4 is pre-show conditioning. So alongside establishing cool downs to improve health and recovery post-shows, I have recently developed a new series that I am coining now the conditioning exercises. So vocal conditioning is a practice of series of exercises that uses similar technology found in the cool downs to reduce inflammation at the folds, and they slough off also any lingering mucus, because as the cords thin out, the mucus falls off. And as the cords thin out, you want the cords thinner. It doesn't make a thin sound. What it helps to do is improve the tone and flexibility and agility and vocal production. But any lingering mucus will slough off, and it prepares the voice for singing. And they build tone and clarity while also recovering the voice from anything lingering for the show. So these exercises are taught inside my vocal mastery program. I just built them last year, and there's 3 sequences. One is for recovery, one is for clarity for the tone, one is for conditioning. I forget what the second one is, and the third one is an advanced warm-up. One's recovery, one's clarity, and one's for an advanced warm-up. And this is an advanced warm-up for touring singers that comes from the E family, the aspirated E's, but it's designed with these really slow and then quicker and then fast movements that are done in sequence that actually oscillate all of the muscles and clear up the mucus, get the voice ready for singing. So it's in the cool down family in terms of taking the inflammation down, but it's something that touring singers use because they're doing both of those things at the same time and getting the voice flexible and opening up the range and the tone and just that gliding ability of the voice. And number 5 is the voice building techniques to strengthen your voice long term. So really the way to build a confident, consistent voice is to train with voice building techniques. Voice building is a specific set of exercises within my co-vocal method that build the tone, the range, the strength, and the power, and the overtone series and the legato voice, which is that gliding, that connection, that breath control and gliding and development of the full vowel series and everything. And so all of those are taught inside the Vocal Freedom Circle that you can get anytime. It's an 8-week course, but you can also come in and just dive in and do the vocal mastery. Like I said, I'm not doing it again I don't know. Next year I'm teaching the advanced level. And I don't know if I'm going to do it in 2027 because we have a lot slated and I'm writing 2 books and I have a podcast slated. So I'm not sure if I'm going to lead it again. So this would be the time. And for the cost, it's like just a little over the cost of 1 semester for 1 course at Berkeley. So it's just, you can't beat the cost and the experience. And our singers that are in this program are amazing. We have people, it's really people in their late 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And we have some people in their 70s and 80s. Madeline Brandley is doing it again, and she's 80. She just turned 80. And she lives in Hawaii, and she's a lifelong singer. We have a wonderful jazz singer that's on tour joining us. So we have people that are on tour, but we also have people like Bonnie who had neurological damage to her voice from Lyme disease. And last year we recovered her speaking voice. I mean, she couldn't even speak. And we recovered her speaking voice, and she's joined us again for another year to recover her singing voice. So this technique really works, and at its base, because it's based in vocal science and vocal health, it really builds the longevity. So let me open it up for any questions that anybody has about the technique itself, anything that I've said, any questions about voice. Join our list. You can get invited to these Zoom sessions that we're doing over the next 2 weeks. We've extended enrollment to November 6th. We have a lot of people repeating the course again. I am teaching it differently. I'm teaching level 1 and level 2 this time, so it's a really good refresh and redesigning. So I redesign it. Every time I do a course, I improve it. So I'm, just a brand new class 1 that we didn't have last year. So for those of you that might want to join us again, I know those of you with VMP alumni, you have your discount all the way through. So if you're thinking of that, just look at your emails and you'll see that discount coupon. But we start today. We're closing enrollment next Wednesday. So any questions, any thoughts, any comments? Hey, Melissa. So good to see you. Melissa joined us last year, and she was on tour and made a record during the actual course last year, which was incredible. Any questions? Now is the time. You want to pick a voice teacher's brain? What are your questions about voice? What are the things that you need help with? Or questions about stamina, questions about longevity, or questions about the method? You can always go over to carriecole.com. There is a page called the Cole Vocal Method. And if you click on that, you'll learn the history, the philosophy, what it consists of and exactly how to learn it. It walks you through the programs for how to learn it. And that's over on carriecole.com. And then the Vocal Mastery Program is carriecole.com/vocal-mastery-program. And it's still 25% off through next week for people that are not on our list. Well, it's for everybody, but then the alumni get a different discount, the VMP alumni. And also, it's for certification. So if they're voice teachers on the call today, if you are even remotely interested in possibly learning the method yourself and teaching this is the program to get in. And like I said, I don't know when I'm going to do it again. Questions here over on YouTube. Do you have tips on smoothing the break between chest and head voice? Yes, it's a very, very, very important aspect of singing, right? And yes, as you're practicing technique, and one of the ways that I approach it, there are several, but one of the things to first start to understand is that there's an adjustment here going on as you're moving through your chest into head. And the less technique you have, the bumpier it will be, or the less control you'll have over your belt or your head or where you are in your registers. The more you train, the more it smooths out. But the first thing to understand is that there's a change that's happening here, right? And so that change is because the larynx is moving up. So as you go higher, there's more air velocity, and the laryngeals, when they're not trained to have what we call laryngeal resistance or depth, they pop up too early, and then you will have a problem, right, in your break or your crack or break. And so we do a lot of techniques with the pinch position or lip pull to get that larynx in a deeper position as we're gliding through. And when you get in a deep enough position, you can actually go between the register shifts without feeling them. Now, this is in technique, we practice this, but what happens over time is that the voice learns that mechanic and then starts to pull those registers more together. And I've done this with thousands of singers in my own voice as well. So, Jeff, is VFC more in-depth and comprehensive to take on its own, or will it all be covered in VMP? It's all covered in VMP. Yeah, I mean, I think VFC, is a different format. So it has slides. So it's teaching level 1. So it's teaching the singer's gift, the vocal rescue, the masters, and the fundamentals. And it's an 8-week course, and they're modules that are a little over an hour, and then the exercises are there. So there's a little bit of difference in that VFC, but some people don't like self-study, and there's no accountability other than coming on the calls once a month. But VMP is live with me on Zoom. So it's a much more immersive, interactive, dynamic course. And there's plenty of time to ask questions and to workshop and get down to the bottom of things. But the same content is covered, and you get level 2, which is not in VFC. So level 2, it starts, I think, 2.5 months in, which is more the intermediate level. So VMP is much more robust. And like I said, I'm not doing it again, but I think you're registered, actually. I think I saw your name there. So super excited. Robert Goldsmith, is there a way to sing with a gritty, healthy way to sing with a gritty sound? Well, the stronger that you are, the more that you can get away with that. Using vocal fry and using a little bit more techniques that are not as abrasive or deteriorating on the voice. But at the end of the day, the voices that have more rasp or grit in them tend, if they're not strong singers, they tend to burn out much earlier. And a lot of those people have nodules. They actually sing with nodules. I know Pink has nodules. People have nodules, and there is a surgery, but there's always a risk with surgery that something could go awry, and you really don't want to mess with that with your voice. So, yeah, I mean, I think through styling and having a very strong voice. Now, there's one last little thing that I'll really focus on to really work on the pectoral muscles, because the pectoral muscles are what anchor the laryngeals and give strength to the laryngeals. So you'll notice in some of those singers like Teddy Swims, who, can have a little bit of grit, they generally have wider chests, more barrel chested or swimmer chests, and you won't see them lifting their chin up. They're just kind of more stocky, and the chest is more connected. The chin is more connected, and the voice is more connected to the pectoral muscles. So those kinds of singers can get away with a lot. But often those singers in their 40s are coming to me like, oh no, they maybe had natural voices and didn't train, but now they're having trouble. So over time, it will deteriorate if you're not singing correctly. You have to be an incredibly strong singer to be able to pull that off in a healthy way. Any other questions? Well, I hope some of you can come and join us for Vocal Mastery. This is it. This is the last call. We're enrolling behind the scenes through next Wednesday, and it starts today, and it's an incredible program. You won't find a technique like this anywhere else, and it's a real method. So you'll have the method for your entire life, and you'll protect the health and longevity of your voice, and you'll not only strengthen, you'll build the tone and the overtone series and the range and all of these things. It's just really incredible. Watch the testimonials. So I'm excited for those of you that are joining us, and for those of you that might be on the fence, do it. The time is now. And come and join me every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. It's my pleasure. Thanks for spending this time with me today, and I'll see you guys soon.